I'll be talking about the cornerstone of the React components, props, and state. Let's dive in. So in front of me, we have an app, which is Habit Tracker. Very simple app. You can track your habit like gym, coffee, code, and then you can add amount of the streaks you've done. I already built that app in my previous video. You can check it out down in the links. You can watch it short version and the full version as well. Today we'll be talking about components. We have here the whole app over here and we're exporting app. So think of the React component is a sort of the container which self-contains one piece which can be added to the another piece. It's pretty much the same code as you have right now, but it's more structured and it's easier to go through. Right now, as you can see, we have a function app, which is our component. It imports state from React, imports some styles. We have here styles file. And after that, the component of app is exported to the different app. It's actually right now a self-sustained component, which is in main file here being important, import app from here and then used here as a component. And then it uses create root function, which is from this library, which is basically creates the whole React app. So it's like a root starting point. Now let's come back over here and let's make a good component of our own. So we have app component. We'll have here a couple of states. We'll come back to states later. We have event handler, which is add habit. We can collapse it. We have another function, which is incrementing the streak, this one. And the add habit is responsible to actually do a handler here. So if I add saying doing nothing and click add habit, that's what this event handler is responsible for. And after all, we have a return statement where we actually return everything. In return, it's kind of a lot right now. As you can see, we have div level, then we have h1, then we have input, then we have this button add habit, and then we have ul unordered lists, which contains a lot of this stuff. What we can extract from here to make the code even more readable for ourselves. I'm thinking of what we can componentize. We can basically cut this out from here, just create another file in the same level as app habit.js. We can paste our function. I just copy pasted whatever we had here in here. I'll probably need to wrap it up in the component to make it self-sustained component. So let's write function habit. We'll probably import habit name streak on increment streak. That makes sense. Streak. Then we're closing it up and opening. And here we have to return, like this. Now we're back to the code we copied. Remove this semicolon, cut, and paste it over here. It's almost there. For the key, we'll think about it now. Let's keep our style. Just comment out for a while, keeping our style. And here we are getting habit name. Actually, instead of habit name, let's put it just habit. Let's just keep it habit and on increment streak, accessing habit. Under that will be name and it will be habit and streak, which makes total sense. And then on click, we will use increment. Okay, let's rename that back to increment streak index. Do we have an index? I wonder if we can pass index as well. If we can pass it, then we can use it here to return this back. Pretty much good. We can save that file. What we need to do, as you can see over here, we need to export default. Let's do the same. Export default habit, save it, and in here let's import that. Import habit from habit. And now I broke the app, that's fine. So what is happening right now is, as you can see, from the place where we're supposed to render elements of the habits, we have this array of the habits. We're mapping it through, going through each habit and index. And then we return, before we were like returning the whole this li element, which we're like rendering for each of the element inside map. If we, for example, had one habit, it will just render once one habit. If we're rendering three, we have three, it will render three different items of LIs. Now, to make more a self-sustained component and separate component, we just separate it in habit.js. And now what I'm going to do to the piece here, which is missing, probably you already guessed it. Remember, we are importing habit on the top. over here, putting habit here as a self component. So we have it already. Now talking about the props, we already separated one component from another. We had one before, now we have two. We have habit component and app component, the main component of the app. We import here. What is the props in React? Why you need them? This is exactly the place where you use props. Props is short for the properties. So you want to pass information from your top level of app account from here down to a smaller component inside, which is just responsible for rendering one habit. That's the sole purpose of this component, is just get some data and return li. That's a very simple, very dumb component. That's what it does. And we separate it into separate file. That component, to make the job, needs this data. And this data is a properties, or props for short. So we say props in React. Key, we have index, we'll be providing key. Habit, we'll be passing the whole habit, which is object containing inside name and the streak. We can pass it as a habit name, and here we can access right away the name. We can go as a streak, and we can pass habit streak. But instead of doing this, I'll just comment it out. We'll pass the whole habit as an object inside. I will just leave it as an example. And increment streak will be equal. You see right now it's grayed out because it's not used in the code. Grayed out, we copy, just pass it over here. Now boom, no errors anymore, at least in this file. I think we can save it. Looks good so far. As you can see right now, we passed the habit component, we passed key, index, habit, and function for incrementing. I just disabled ESLint rule, which I had it. Now I refresh my app and I see I made a mistake. It should be GSX file. It's not JS. That's my miss. Let's rename habit to GS6. It's automatically changing file name here. Now it's habit JS6 because we do have JS6 in there. Let's refresh it one more time. Let's check our terminal. Let's restart it. I just restarted it. In case you will have a problem, just restart your server. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes you have to restart your server. Okay. Now we see we have some errors. It's trying to add the streak, but it's not. Okay, going back, what we changed so far, why our incremental was not working, and it's a good lesson to learn it anyway. So we're passing a key, and this is not a prop, by the way. I mean, this is not a prop to be passed down the line. That's an important lesson, by the way. Keys is something which is like a self-identification for every habit to have its own ID or key, which is like a unique value. Index is not the best way to use it, but let's use it here. Same time, as we're passing habit as a habit, increment streak as increment streak, you can give it a different name. You have to change it here as you receive it. The index should be passed as index separately, because this will not be passed down the line in component. It will not accept it because it will sort of like a swallow it, keep it inside of a component, but never used as prop to pass the data down to the component from the parent component. You will not pass it from the app to the habit component. That's why I added it here separately, index as index. And now over here we have habit, function increment streak, and index. Now as we're getting index over here, I'm passing it to the key, I'm passing it to the increment streak, and now that should resolve your problem. Let's save both the files, refresh the app, restart your server in case you need it, and let's go again. More coffee, no gym, bit of a code. That looks like it's working. That was in a nutshell about the props.